Hi, I'm Ellice Yang from Ellice Yang Arts. I'm a fluid artist here today at ArtResin headquarters. I'm going to show you and share with you some of my process for fluid art, flow art, and we'll be doing some cell art, SheleeArt Bloom today. Now we're ready to move on to our cell art piece using the SheleeArt Bloom Technique. And I have here my wood panel, 18-inch wood panel that I'll be working on. And over here, the paints that I'll be using. So first, you need a pillow paint, and we're gonna be using a house paint. This will be the thickest consistency, and it's called our pillow or cushion, and you'll see why. So I have here next are my colors that I'll be using. So I have a variety of 2 paints with different opacity and also pigments. So first I'll be using something called the Ballet Slipper and I'm using pigments from Fluid Art Co. This is a beautiful pink, like ballet slippers. I have a 2 paint that I'll be using next, magenta, and then I have here an interference pigment called Sequence, which is an interference between pink and purple. Next, we'll be using teal, which is another 2 paint, and it's opaque. And then another pigment, Lakeside. It's a beautiful deep ocean blue. And then another pigment, this is an interference, and it's interference between blue and violet. And then I have Constellation, which is a sparkly purple. And then I'm gonna end it with a 2 paint, purple. And then the last thing you're gonna put on, which will be the thinnest out of all 3, is your Cell Activator, which is made using titanium white. I have titanium white and Australian Floetrol. Okay, so the first layer will be house paint, which will be the thickest out of the 3 mediums that I'm using. And this is called the pillow paint or the cushion. Then I have a mixture of all my colors between 2 paints and pigments. And then the last thing I'll be topping it up with is my Cell Activator, which is made using acrylic titanium white with Australian Floetrol. So when I say 2 paints, they're just acrylic paint mixed with the pouring medium, and the pigments are just pigments using TLP, this little piggy, pigments mixed into the pouring medium. So once I layer these paints, I'll be moving the Cell Activator over the paints using my Yeeho blow dryer. And speaking of moving, I want to make sure the consistencies are great and that the Cell Activator is working. So we're going to do a quick test piece. So I am going to be doing the cell art. This is a SheleeArt Bloom. And I'm just laying down my base paint. It's a house paint as a first layer. And then we have a mix of 2 paints. And I'm just testing it out to make sure my consistencies are good. So that's magenta, this is a pigment. And then we're gonna layer it with another 2 paint. This is teal. And then velvet pigment, and then a purple. Okay. And then this is the Cell Activator. And it's a mix of titanium white. You can use any kind of opaque acrylic mixed with Australian Floetrol. I'm just gonna put a little bit, and let's see, this is good. So I'm just gonna blow out the center, and I'm gonna blow the Cell Activator across. So I think the recipe looks good. Gonna let that come back to the center a little bit, but that looks great so far. We can tilt this to stretch it out, actually. So to that corner, and then to the opposite corner. Bring it back to the center. And we're going to go this way to this corner. Takes a little bit of patience, but overall I think the Cell Activator looks good. And then we've got one more corner to go. I'm just going to add a little bit more paint on it. So this is tilting. You can also spin it on a spinner. Just helping it move along. And then we're just going to bring it back to the center again. And then that's it. I think we're ready to work on our piece. So we're ready to do our cell art, and I just wanted to test out all of my paints, the consistency, and most importantly my Cell Activator, to make sure that it's at the right ratios. So here I've done a little tester on a tile and I've blown it out with my breath just to make sure the Cell Activator is working and the consistencies are moving fluidly, and it is, so we're ready to start on our big piece. All right, so the consistencies look great. The Cell Activator is working nicely, as you can see. So I'm ready to paint. So I'm gonna step up on my step stool and we're ready to go. So let's start with our base, which is a black house paint. This is our pillow. And I wanna pour it on, but leave a little bit around the edge. And I think that should do it. All right, so I'm gonna just tilt some off a little bit. Okay, so once your pillow is on, this is the thickest layer, I'm going to start layering my paints. So I have a pigment here. Again, it's just pigment powder mixed with my pouring media. I'm gonna start with that. Actually, I'm gonna just pour it right out. And then I have my acrylic 2 paint mixed with my medium. And we have magenta. And I'm making sure I have my acrylic 2 paints in there, not just my pigments, so that the Cell Activator won't just melt into the pigments, which is thinner, and the 2 paints will be able to carry out the Cell Activator as I blow it across. So I have my sequence here, which is an interference of pink and purple. Next, I'm going to use another 2 paint. This is actually a really pretty teal from Golden. And I'm just actually going to drizzle this one because it can be a little overpowering as it's an opaque paint. Okay. Next, I have another pigment called Lakeside, and it's a beautiful deep blue with a little bit of gold shift into it. I am going to use another pigment. This is called Velvet, which is a purple and violet shift, and I'm just going to drizzle this on. Okay, And then one more pigment. So I have 3 pigments on, but I'm layering it very thin. This is Constellation, which is a really pretty purple. All right, and we are going to finish off with another acrylic, which is our purple. So you always want to finish off with your last layer being an acrylic paint, because I will be putting the cell activator right on top, and it will hold it and let it, as I blow it over, it won't just dissolve and melt into the whole painting, and you'll get very clear cell definition. All right, so next, I'm going to just drag my paint out a little bit so that once I'm ready to blow this out, everything is covered as I spin this. So I do have this on a cake spinner, and we'll be using that to just spin the painting out. I want to get my edges as much as I can. Okay, so I'm just gonna give my Cell Activator, which is just 2 ingredients, Australian Floetrol and titanium white. I'm using an Amsterdam titanium white. I'm just gonna pour that, and you wanna make this a little bit bigger than usual. Okay, so my goal is to use my dryer to move that Cell Activator across the paint. All right, so I'm just gonna let everything come back together and just blow out break up the white a little bit with my breath. And we're just gonna let everything come back to the center. So you can see I wasn't blowing straight down into it where it's going right into the base. Your goal is to just spread that Cell Activator straight across the surface. So let me just center this a little bit before we spin it. All right, I think one other thing you can do is you can use a stick, but you can just kind of add some detail to the edges by just using just circular motions to just kind of add some interest. Okay, so let's see how this is gonna look once we spin. So I'm ready to spin it. Okay, and you just want to stop it as it goes. So I just want to shift it tilt it a little bit. So you may need to give it a couple of spins. All right. So take a look, and then I can see I just want it to reach here. All right, I think maybe 2 more spins and we're good. So I have some, I can see I'm gonna have some negative space in there, which I actually don't mind. It looks really, really nice. And the cells look great. And then anytime you wanna just kind of gauge where it's at. So you just wanna give it, just check to see the composition, and I think that looks really good. I'm gonna stop there. Okay, so I really, really love how this turned out. What I'm loving, what our goal was to create cells, and I think we've done that. And you can see all the different details in the cells. I think we have some peacock cells showing here. You can see all the different layerings of the colors peeking through, the magenta, the pinks, and the blues. And this here, I don't know if you can see it, but once we put that resin on, you're gonna see that interference velvet, my favorite pigment popping through, which is this brilliant blue violet. And we're going to let this cure again for about 3 to 4 weeks. We'll be ready to give it a nice shiny resin coat, which will make all these colors that we added, the interference, just pop. So as the other 2 pieces are drying, I wanted to show you the resin process. So I've gone ahead and prepared 2 pieces, my Dutch pour and my Cell Art, that have fully cured. You really want to give it at least 3 to 4 weeks to fully cure. And as you can see, once dried, it's completely flat and smooth. And when we put that resin on, you're gonna see the colors pop. So let's go mix some resin and get started. So now we're ready to resin. I have my 24 by 36 panel here, and for that size, I'm going to need 30 ounces of resin, which you can calculate on the ArtResin calculator. And so that means 15 ounces of the hardener and 15 ounces of the resin, and that's why volume, not weight. So I'm going to go ahead, and it doesn't matter whether you start with the hardener or the resin. I'm gonna start with the hardener. So I'm gonna need 15 ounces. I have my measuring cup here, and I'm gonna pour that in. So this is a 32 ounce kit, so I'm probably gonna need almost all of this bottle. All right, yeah, 15 ounces of the hardener. I'm gonna mix in the resin, the equal amount. And you really want to make sure you have the exact 1-to-1 ratio of each. It's great to just have these in a hot bath, a warm bath, I should say, water bath, to keep the resin, to avoid air bubbles, to minimize them as much as possible. That's good. Okay. So now we have 30 ounces of resin. I'm just gonna use my wooden stick here to mix it for 3 minutes. So you wanna be nice and gentle about stirring this, not too vigorous, as it'll incorporate a lot of bubbles. And as I'm doing this, I wanna just go along the sides and make sure I'm scraping that in so everything, the hardener and the resin, is incorporated evenly. And you're gonna start to notice that it's cloudy right now, but you'll see that it just turns clear. Okay, so it's been 3 minutes and everything's incorporated, but just to be extra sure when you're doing a big batch, I mean, this is medium size, I would just transfer this to another cup, and I will scrape everything. And what I'm gonna do is just continue mixing it all in here, just to make sure everything on the bottom has been mixed. Okay, and we're ready to go. Just wait till the resin hits this. You'll see all the colors come to life. Okay. Okay. All right, so let's spread that out. Wow. I'm bringing it to the edge and letting it drip off this piece as well. And as I get to the edge, I'm just dragging it over. All right. Just adding a little bit more here. So I'm just going to torch out the bubbles again. Nice, okay. All right, so I've got my pieces covered for the night. So we're gonna let it cure for about 24 hours, and I can't wait to show you the big reveal once it's cured. Okay, we're back. It's been 24 hours and I'm back here at ArtResin headquarters, ready to take a look at these pieces that's been resined. So here we go. We're gonna lift up the covers. So everything looks so clean. It just gives your art pieces that professional finish. I love the way this turned out. So we have a little bit more work to do before we can put this up. I'm going to start removing the edges, the tape off of the edges. And because I've already finished it and varnished it, it should be an ease taking this off. Here you have it. We've removed the tape and this is the finished resin product. This wasn't the painting that we did. They're drying right now. Once they're fully cured, we'll be resining that as well. But I wanted to show you how resin looks on these pieces, the Dutch pour and the Cell Art, and it looks beautiful. And I just love how the resin is bringing out all the different interference colors and pigments. Even if you use the same colors, same layering, you can always end up with a different look. It always looks a little bit different, and that's what I love about fluid art. So if you do have any questions or comments, comment below. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, ArtResin, for having me. See you next time. Bye.